So, as requested by Damien, one of our subscribers a few weeks ago, we're back today to talk about optimization. Launching new ad campaigns and actually seeing results are two very different things. You may be lucky and actually nail it down on your first try, but chances are you'll need to make a few tweaks before you actually see results with your ad campaigns. In this week's video, I'll be going over a live Facebook ad account of one of our e-commerce clients and walk you through my thought process when optimizing this account. My name is Justin and I'm the founder of Wizo Media, an e-commerce marketing agency specializing in elevating thriving brands by simplifying e-commerce growth. Before we get started, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, as well as turn on post notifications to be one of the first to know about these cutting-edge e-commerce marketing tips posted on the channel every week. So as you can see, I'm on a live ad account right now. Those are two campaigns that are actually done as we're speaking. So I want to show a difference between a campaign that did work and a campaign that didn't work so well, and show you the differences in the stats. What are we looking at when looking at both of these campaigns, and how can we even say that these campaigns worked or not. So this video is going to be really specific to e-commerce brands, as said in the title, and as mentioned at the beginning of the video, we specialize within e-commerce advertising. So I'm going to walk you through how to actually look at the metrics that you see on Facebook and where to take a decision, on what to optimize. So looking at this, the first thing, I want to mention is ROAS is king. So on e-commerce ads, obviously, the only thing you want to take a look at to begin with is ROAS. Is your ROAS good or not? That means, your return on ad spend. So are you actually getting a return or the return that you want? So while looking at your ROAS, you want to determine your break-even ROAS, which that, you're going to have a calculation on screen right now. This is how you would calculate that break-even ROAS. So that tells you, what ROAS target you should aim for to know if your campaigns are working or not for your brand specifically. So that'll depend on your margins, but as an example for that brand, the break-even point was somewhere around, I think, 2.2 or somewhere, I think, between 2.2 and 2.5 at that time. So that said, one of the campaigns ended up with a 6.54, which is great for that client. This other campaign ended up with a 1.89, which is not so great. So obviously we could have made that a little better. So we're going to take a look at the stats and see what could have we optimized for that cold campaign that we're seeing right here. So there are two types of metrics that we take a look at first. The first one are the sort of top of funnel metrics. Those are just the funnel, the actual funnel on the website. Is anything wrong with the website? So that's the first thing we take a look at to make sure that is this actually something ad related, or is this something that could be better on the website? So looking at this over here, let's say that campaign, 455 landing page views, 135 add to carts, which is a little low, but it's not too bad. Definitely, a little low between add to cart and checkouts, and from checkouts to purchase, that's not too bad. So there is something here on the checkout process that could be a little better on the website. It could be expectations. It could be people adding things to cart that are actually, that there's not the discount that they were expecting. So that could have been something on the website right here that definitely needed some attention. So this, should have been closer to, I'd say, about a 50% drop off. Depends on the brand again, but I'd say for that brand, that would have been fair. So here we have a much higher drop off than that. 135 items added to carts for only 34 checkouts. Definitely, could have improved that. But where I really want to bring your attention to today is more on the metrics of the ads. So how to optimize the actual ads. So what I'm going to do right here is check that cold campaign and go into the ad set level. So looking at this right here, we can clearly see that one of the ad sets yielded no purchases with $96 spent. So one thing that you want to look at as your second thing is your ideal cost per acquisition. So basically what you do is you go from ROAS all the way to the other end of the spectrum and see what metric is influencing that. So the first or the second thing that comes right after your ROAS is your cost per acquisition. How much is it actually costing you per conversion? So if we're going out here to the performance, which would be a cost per result. So right here, it's about $48 for that one. Here says 32. So definitely, much lower cost per purchase on that first ad set. So that said, we can actually see also one of the many errors of Facebook. That happens pretty often with different clients. That ad account right here reported back 2 purchases for this ad set without any purchase conversion value. So that, is a little hard, makes it a little hard for you to optimize. But just by the cost per results, we were able to see that this first ad set was better than the second one. Again, if we're going back here, cost per result, 48 versus 32. Their average order value is, close to $50, depending on the time of the year. That time it was about that. It was 50 to 60 bucks. So you're obviously getting a much better result with this first ad set. So just looking at that right here, I could have said, all right, we can turn that off, but that's not it, right? So we want to make sure that you spend a little more than your ideal cost per acquisition before turning something off. So right here, we can clearly say that this second one, is not ideal. It's barely a 1x ROAS. Even that first one was actually, not the best. I mean, we've seen it, results with 1.89. It's definitely not where we aim to be, but it was already a little better than this second ad set. So we turned off the football shoes and then kept this lookalike 1% to continue optimizing. Now, the second thing we're gonna look at is if you wanna pick on Facebook the targeting and creatives columns, it's a pretty good one. You can also do a manual one, you can create your own custom column layout, but for the purpose of this video, we're just gonna use that. So, other thing we want to take a look at afterwards are the click-through rates and the overall, CPM for that specific account. So everything we're doing here is, again, assuming there's nothing wrong with the website. That was the first step done at the beginning. Is there a problem in conversions? Is there a problem with, somewhere in the funnel? If everything checks out over there, then this is where we optimize, for the ads. But obviously, if there's something wrong with your conversion rate, if your conversion rate is lower than 2%, on your website, then I'd say you definitely need to fix that and make sure you get a good website up and running to help with your ads, because you could have the best ads in the world, but if the website doesn't convert, then you obviously won't ever be able to have, the results you expect. So from everything said so far, the first thing you're going to want to take a look at is your cost per click. Is your cost per click good? Is that within KPI? Most of the time you'll want to keep that around $1. That's just a general, baseline for any type of brand. Anything around $1 is going to be a healthy cost per click. Sometimes it's going to be a little higher, 1.25, 1.5, even up to $2, but you really want to keep it as low as possible. So $1 is the baseline, but make sure you calculate what your ideal cost per click is. If you established all of the metrics that we said so far, so talking about, your break-even ROAS, talking about, what is your website conversion rates, you can pretty much reverse engineer that and calculate what is, what is the maximum you can pay for each click on your website, based on what is your website converting at. And the second thing you look at is your click-through rate. So is your click-through rate good or not? So right now, looking at these two ad sets here, it's 0.96 and 0.56. We're gonna go ad specific level right now to see how that looks like. So if we take a look at that specific ad set right here and take a look at all of these ads. So looking at this right there, you have very different click-through rates depending on these, different ads. So when we're on the ad level, you see that we have very different click-through rate levels on these different ads, 0.17% right here, all the way up to 1.08%. So a general industry baseline you want to aim for click-through rates is above 1%. And I'm saying that's just a bit of a bare minimum you should have, whatever spend level you're on. For some of our brands, we can actually achieve a 2, 3, and even 4% click-through rate at times. Click-through rate is always going to be bigger on your retargeting because people know you already, so they're always going to be more likely to click on these ads. But looking at cold, something above 1.5% is definitely going to be an indicator that the ad itself is good. So looking at that right there, we can assume that, all right, none of these ads are actually good. Meaning if I'm looking at this right here, I would have to change every single one of these ads. So there's something wrong on the ad level for sure. Click-through rate is way too low. So that could be the ad creative, that could be the ad copy, or it could be both. So in this case, seeing that right here, I would tell myself, all right, I definitely need to change these 4 ads. If you have the capacity to change your creatives, it's obviously going to be the biggest, impact on your results is going to be that. So looking at that right there, I need to increase my click-through rate. So for that client, somewhere around 1.5, 2% even would be what we would aim for at least. So I definitely need to change these 4 creatives. Then is our CPM averaging or mirroring at least the average of the ad account? So let's take a look at that. Right now for these 4 ads, or actually let's go more at the ad set level, $8.96 for our CPM. So if we take a look at the other campaign, let's say that was a success, that was closer to $7. So if we take a look at that and go to ad set level, there's a cold and there's a retargeting audience. 6.77, you know, right now we're at what for that one? We said about $8, right? So $8.96, it is pretty much an average, you know, CPM is good, meaning our targeting is not too bad, you know, in general, or is the ad account health also seems to be pretty good. So we know our CPM is pretty good, so that's pretty much in KPI. So only things right now that are not really in KPI so far is the click-through rate. You know, our cost per click is not so bad, CPM is not too bad. We also noticed that it could be something better in the checkout process on the website, but the main thing that we need to optimize and put our focus on is that click-through rate. It seems silly, right? But looking at the click-through rate right here, just let's say that in general, an ad like that, you know, 0.17%, if we just round it up to somewhere around 0.2%, putting that ad or the same ad, you know, at a above 1% click-through rate would 5x the amount of clicks essentially on that specific ad. So 5x the amount of clicks would mean 5 times more people on the website, which would mean, again, if the website, assuming the website has a healthy conversion rate, there would be 5 times more conversions. So this said right here, we're at 0.96 overall for that ad sets. We aim to be at around 1.5 to 2%. So let's say we want to go to 2%, then we would double the clicks, therefore double the website conversions, assuming again the conversion rate stays the same, and that would mean, you know, double the overall ROAS. And for that one, we were at 1.89, so we're close to 2. If we would double that 1.89, that would bring us to somewhere around 3.8. And for a campaign to be at around 3.8 for that client, that's a pretty good spot to be at. So literally just this one small tweak could mean this campaign as a whole would have been a winner. Now, looking at all of that together, it's time to make some conclusions and to make some actionable steps to take with this ad account. So the first thing we took a look at was ROAS, but from there, we took a step back to take a look at the ideal cost per acquisition, because that is generally what's gonna tell us, you know, what ROAS we're gonna get at the end of the day. And then we take a look at the overall amount spent, just as we did earlier, right? That specific campaign, if we're going back to performance, that campaign right there, the second one, had a cost per purchase of $48 and had already spent at this point $96, which we were way above the AOV. We're at actually around 2x the general AOV for that client. So it's a good spot for us to say like, all right, this is not working. We need to turn that ad set off. There's no general rule for AOV because this will depend on every different clients you work with or every different ad accounts that you take care of. So depending on your brand, you know, it has to be specific to your own AOV. For some clients, we could have been spending, you know, we have clients that have an AOV of $250. So an AOV of $250, and obviously you expect to have a higher cost per acquisition. So you need to spend a whole lot more to ensure that you know whether or not this ad set works. So as an example, if an ad or ad set is basically below break even, like it's not really generating good results, your click-through rate is not the best, you know, cost per click seems to be way off, but in this case, it only spent, you know, 15 bucks. And the client's AOV is $60, then obviously we can't really make any conclusions, because if we let it spend a little more, then it could generate 1, 2, or even 3 conversions. So it could go from being, you know, a very average ad to being, you know, one of our best ads in this ad account. And this is the reason why we usually let it spend more than the client's AOV, because if we're assuming the client's AOV is $50, and in this case, you know, we spent $96, then we could have been spending, and this often happens with other clients, you know, we could have been spending around, you know, $55, and then boom, we get 2 conversions. And then that puts, you know, this specific ad set at an incredible level, and we wouldn't have known that if we had stopped it early. But as a general rule, don't let it spend more than 2 times your AOV, because you don't want to let things drag on for too long. You don't want to let things to continue until the end of the day. You know, if that was the case, then you would get emotions get in the way and then take decisions that potentially would just hinder your brand. Part of optimizing your ads, I think of it almost like trading, you know, trading stocks, trading crypto. It's part of it is almost feels like gambling. Like you see money in, money out, and it's like, you know, emotions get into the way, and you want to make sure you're profitable. You want to make sure you're not losing any money, but it's very important to establish these KPIs and be like, all right, if my AOV is $50, then I do not let, for any reasons, these ad sets spend more than $100. You know, if they're at over $100 and there are no conversions yet, then you must stop them. Pretty much it for that specific ad account. So the conclusion that we had was that there's definitely a problem within the ad level, and also within the ad set level, there's one of the ad sets that would need to be turned off because it was just not being profitable. So we would have made, you know, if I was actually to take action on this ad account, I would have made some changes on these ads. So definitely at the ads level, there was something wrong, and I would have also made a change at the ad set level. When you really understand your business's numbers, it comes very easily afterwards to optimize your ad account. You start from the end result, which is the purchase, and then, you know, you have your AOV from there, you know, your margins, so you can say what is your break-even ROAS, which ROAS is king on Facebook. So once you know your ROAS and what your target is, you can tell your cost per acquisition, which that allows you to know, what is your ideal, cost per click, and then your click-through rates. And then from there, you just go all the way up to see, are each of these metrics, are they within KPI? Now, if you're an e-commerce brand or store owner making at least $20,000 to $30,000 a month with your brand, I invite you to click on the first link in the description down below and book in a very short 15-minute demo call with our team. Best case scenario, we end up partnering up together and scale you up with ads. If we don't think we're the right fit, which happens most of the time, we'll just end up leaving you with a free action plan to implement on your own. On that note, make sure you check out other videos on the channel for some more e-commerce marketing tips, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.